Hey, folks, welcome to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. This is I don't want to say unusual, Carlos, but you're at the Superdome in New Orleans. I'm at Metro Airport by Carousel 1. I don't know if that rings a bell to you or not. Probably not, because you probably don't check. But
I do check my bags. I do.
Yeah, I do the same. We have a little window here before it gets too noisy. If you can hear any Christmas music in the background, I apologize for that. Although just enjoy it. How about that? I just got back, Carlos, from Indianapolis, where I was watching at the Big Ten title game between Michigan and I don't even remember who they played, Iowa. But I did make time to watch the Lions game today, and just give me your quick initial thoughts. 33-28, held on at the end. I want to mention a metaphor or analogy you used in your three questions, but I want to hear your quick takes first.
Yeah, it felt. I mean, it was an extraordinary start. 21-0. They scored on a takeaway, an interception by Brian Branch. Everything was going their way. And even Dan Campbell mentioned afterward, like, yeah, you're just not going to start off that way all the time. So they slowed down. The Saints made adjustments, and they kind of held on at the end. But it's. I think this should have been maybe a little bit more of a clear-cut victory, but they got a little bit lucky, but they also did some right things, and they got some takeaways for a change on defense. And Dave Burkett and I were kind of arguing about this, and he thought I was like, they got lucky, and like they got a little lucky, but the Saints got a little bit lucky too. So it worked out. It's hard to win on the road. I would have expected a more decisive victory from the Lions, but the defense is just gonna let other teams crawl in and sneak in. It's just the defense is an issue, but it did enough today. I mean, I think it's a worthy victory to get to 9-3.
Yeah, you don't apologize for victories in the NFL, right? I mean, it's hard to win, period. It just is. It's hard to blow teams out. And, Mr. Burkett, look, the Saints scored on a Branch tipped a pass that fell right into the arms of, was that Olave? I can't remember. It was down the road, right? So, if he hadn't tipped it, that was a pick by I can't remember who was waiting there, but they were right in the position to get the interception. So,
I think it was Derek Barnes who tipped it, but yeah.
It was a great tip, actually. But in any case, it was a bad break. It was a bad break, and they were both sides. So Mr. Burkett needs to slow the roll a little bit, doesn't he? With that kind of thing. I mean, look, it's not like they were winless. The Saints, they were 5-6, and they'd had some quarterback stuff. They have a decent defense, really good to the first part of the year. But so that there's stuff there, there's material there. You get a team, they get on a roll. I mean, if Derek Carr doesn't go out, I don't know that the Lions hold on, to be honest. Jameis Winston had several open receivers in the end there, right?
Well, I almost thought for a second, but I almost thought for a minute that Taysom Hill was more dangerous. That it was almost a bad thing that Carr started playing better, but he was getting booed. I mean, he's been struggling to begin, coming into this game. He was getting booed every time he went out on the field by the Saints fans. So Taysom Hill seemed to like a lot more. He's not as good of a passer, but he's more of a threat. And as you all know, Lions don't do well with dual threat quarterbacks, guys who can run or mobile. So I kind of thought they should have, if it were me, I would have put Taysom Hill in more. But, they want to go with Carr. They're paying him. He's the guy. But, yeah, at the end, it did kind of feel like they got a little Bruce Irvin really, hit him hard. And he was in concussion protocol, I think, and left the game in the fourth quarter. So, that may have been part of it, part of the reason that they were able to hold off the Saints at the end.
But that was a little bit of bad luck, too, getting back to Mr. Burkett, who normally I'd trust to watch a football game. But, he fell on a quarterback the wrong way, right? There were a couple of offensive plays the Saints had where it was just sort of bad luck. I thought the defense was fine. You're right. It's not a great offense. But, all right, let's get to what you wrote. And I wish I could remember exactly how you phrased. There are a couple things. One, how you phrased if the offense – you didn't use the word hiccup. You essentially said if the offense slows up even a little bit, struggles even a little bit, however you worded it, the defense is going to let the team back in. And that's true factually. But I feel like maybe you're protecting Ben Johnson a little bit there, because I didn't love some of the stuff he was doing early on. This team's built on the offense. And they struggle a little bit today. And they struggle a little bit. In fairness, and you and I have been arguing about this for a year and a half. Everything's changed when Frank Ragnow went down. It just did. The same thing happened when they lost Jonah Jackson a couple of weeks ago. They were running the ball fine. Ragnow goes down, and that sort of stops. Now, you could argue, and you might, Carlos, that if they have to have every one of those pieces that make up arguably the best one or two lines in the league, and then it falls apart if they don't have one, maybe that's a problem. Maybe, to your point, right? Yeah. But when they have it, then Ben Johnson looks like a genius, as a lot of coordinators would with that kind of line.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's true to a certain extent. And, Frank Ragnow is an all-pro level player. Graham Glasgow's a very good player, but not at that level. And you have Colby Sorsdahl coming in at right guard, a rookie. So you're missing something for sure. But I think fans are frustrated with all the runs. And I think Campbell said afterward, they wanted to control the game with a run. So they didn't want to let that, dictate what their game plan was. And you know how it is with coaching is like, we believe in you and we're going to put this on you. And next man up, Frank's down, but we still believe in this. We still believe in the run game. We're not going to get away from it all together. And it wasn't quite as efficient as maybe it had been, but it still worked. I think, Montgomery and Gibbs, they did enough. And as you saw at the end, the double, reverse with JMO. There's ways to be creative with the run game and help it out. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think they paid a lot of attention to him. So they went to Sam Laporta a lot and he had a great game. But the offensive line, you're right, Shawn. You lose a big piece like Ragnow where you lose Penei Sewell, and that's going to change the effectiveness of some of the run game. So, but, they as I was telling Dave after the game, they scored 33 points, and the defense was definitely a big part of two of those scores with takeaways in short field.
A huge part.
But still
14 of those points.
Yeah, 33 points.
33 but it's not really 33, is it? They were really short fields.
You still got to get into the end zone. It's not like it's just a gimme,
You do, but if you do the math, there it's 23 minus 4, so you're talking about 19 points, right? Potentially.
Give the defense credit, and I did. I said that that's something they've been struggling with was takeaways. They came in toward the bottom of the league in takeaways, and they got a couple of them, and that shows you. That may have been the difference in the margin today was the defense came up with takeaways to help the offense. So even though they're not necessarily shutting down the other team's offense, if they get some takeaways, that contributes in a different way. So that is maybe the recipe, right? Is they're not going to suddenly get better at pass rushing. They're suddenly not going to get better in the secondary altogether. But if they can have some opportune plays, one or two a game, that can be enough, I think.
No, for sure. That's the key to the game, right? It's what they obviously didn't do against Green Bay. They haven't done lately. We're able to get by losing the turnover margin in Chicago, but no, it was huge. And that's kind of where their defense is. If they even if they're just neutral, right? If it's just zero margin, where they don't, they end up
right
at the end of the game. Then they're probably good enough to win most games.
Right.
And play with anybody. If it's a positive margin, then we saw what happens today.
For the most part.
It's really why they won the game.
Yeah. I think other than the Eagles and the 49ers, I think that's probably true. I just don't know. I think the Lions would have to be close to flawless to beat the Eagles or the 49ers.
And get some turnovers, right?
Yeah. If it's just even on the turnovers, 0-0 or whatever it is, I think those teams are just more, they've got better defenses. They're more well-rounded. And, the Lions, one credit to the Saints too, is one of the things they did was they took away Amon-Ra St. Brown. He did have a touchdown, but he caught very few passes. Like I said, they paid a lot of attention to him. And so they went with Sam Laporta, and he had a fine, really good game.
Great game.
But in the playoffs, you're going to take away a better defense is going to take away both those guys and still limit the run game. So that's where I think the offense is going to have a few problems, and then the defense what are they going to do against, Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy and those guys, and George Kittle and, there's just when a team has a lot of weapons, animal.
No, they're going to have to outscore them, and it won't be easy against, especially the 49ers defense. Yeah, for sure. But that's where Jameson Williams comes in a little bit too. Maybe Gibbs out of the backfield, and if they're healthy in the offensive line, they should be able to run at least a little bit. I mean, Williams had a great contested catch early in the game over the middle.
Yes,
that's which was we kind of forgot about it a little bit, but we're starting to see that a little bit more, and I think that's important. Our colleague Jeff, what's his last name? No, I'm kidding. Jeff, I'm tired. Jeff
Seidel.
Yeah, Mr. Seidel wrote about Jameson Williams, but I thought that, and he was talking about the reverse, and that was fun. But to me, that catch over the middle early on is very promising as they get it later into this year, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing that, sitting next to Dave Burkett, who sees everything, I mean, there were probably like 3 times where he said Jamo's like wide open, or he was wide open, down the sideline or whatever. And it's interesting how I wonder how much they use him as a decoy still versus really relying on him, really counting on him to get open and to beat his guy and and win those contested catches down the sideline. Those are different. I think the crossing routes are a little bit more of a sure thing, and you throw it low and it's him or nobody. But if you throw it down the sideline, that you can get picked there. And especially if you're on your own side of the field, that's not what you want. So with him, I don't know. I don't know if the trust is quite there in Goff and in Ben Johnson to like, hey, let's count on JMO winning on the outside on this play or whatever and look for him. I don't think they're doing that yet. I don't know if they'll do it this season. That may take a little more time to develop, but it would be fun. He's a fun player. Your favorite thing in the world, Shawn, is a blocking wide receiver, and he plays a physical brand of football, a fun brand of football. He's kept his nose clean. He's done what they've asked of him. So I hope they do mix him in more. It might be a little tough to ask this year, but I think they're going to do it at some point.
And a blocking tight end too, right?
And a blocking. Well, that's part of the job.
I mean, I know, but Laporta had the key block on the Williams reverse. But in any case, look, all right, we're gonna get into the Lions when we rejoin later in the week. We're gonna get into who knows. We can do what we did last week and talk about all the teams. But I think we need to spend a little bit more time with this team. They made the plays they had to today. It's a sign of a good team. It was a good win in a lot of ways. I know it's skewed because they got out to the 21-0 lead, but I thought it was a good win, and they were clutch late, and that's all you can ask for. So, safe travels back, right, Carlos? When are you coming back? You can stay down there for a few extra days.
Oh, next week sometime. No. I'll be back Monday night. But before we go, one quick thing. Congratulations to Jim Leland for being elected to the Hall of Fame. We're probably missing this conference call right now, but well-deserved honor. I'm glad that they didn't hold that he doesn't have enough rings against him or whatever the baseball nerds think sometimes. But he was elected and quite deserving of the honor. And I think everybody in Detroit's going to be pretty happy for that.
Great manager, and the tradition of the best coaches in general, and specifically some of the best in the history of this town. Few better than reading human beings and understanding human nature. He was brilliant at that. A lot like Chuck Daly, to some degree like Sparky Anderson. I mean, there's a list of them here. Dan, we've got one now on Dan Campbell. So it's always fun. Yeah, and absolutely congrats to him. All right, my man. Good to see you. Safe travels back home. Enjoy that city a little bit, and you and I will talk and get together in a few days.
Sounds good. Thanks, Shawn.
All right. Until then, we'll be until we're back with what's the name of our show? Oh yeah, Free Press Sports with Carlson. All right, later, bud.